Hello everyone, my name is Brin and welcome back to my channel. Here on Brin Darcy we talk about life and study at the Australian National University here in Canberra, obviously in Australia. In today's video I'm going to talk to you about the cost of living here in Canberra. I'm sure some of you might have heard it is quite expensive to live in Canberra. If you're an international student, it's quite expensive to live in Australia in general, especially if you count student fees as well. This video will just be talking about the costs of living, not the cost of attending university. So we won't be talking about the cost of textbooks or student administration fees or anything else like that. We'll just be talking about the cost of living and the price of some of the items here in Canberra. As always, down the bottom I've put timestamps where you can click to what you're most interested in hearing about. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy today's video. So first of all, I'll start by saying the ANU does have some resources on the cost of living in Canberra. I haven't really looked into them a lot. I remember seeing them when I first wanted to come to the ANU and I wanted to see how expensive things would be to live and whether it was worth living on campus or not. Obviously those are decisions that you have to make yourself, depending on your budget, your financial situation, what your wants and needs are. That will all change whether or not living on campus is a good option for you. But yeah, today's video I'm not going to be talking hugely about living on campus, but I will touch on it. So the first topic today is renting, and I suppose there are three options when it comes to renting, some with more of an upfront cost than others. So the first option is ANU accommodation, and at the ANU there are various different accommodation residences, self-catered, flexi-catered, fully catered, private rooms, shared rooms, all different sorts of things. And I might not be the person to talk about those specifically because I've never been in them, but there is a lot of videos about those accommodations at the ANU. Search for the one that you're interested in, the name of it, but the price of them ranges from between $256 to $480 according to the ANU website, and that's a per week price. On top of that, you'll also have your bond when you move in. I'm not sure what the ANU bond system is, but I imagine that would be quite a significant financial outlay, but then obviously you get that returned to you if the room is in a good condition when you leave it. The second option to talk about is renting a place off campus, renting in a share house. This is probably the cheapest option, but there can be other costs associated with this, like the cost to get to and from university every day. For this option though, the price that you're looking at for a single room is anywhere between $150 to $300 typically, and that's looking at places in central Canberra and also Belconnen and Gungahlin. So that is the price of that. If you live further out of Canberra, the price may be cheaper. You may get a great deal on a room, but typically you're looking at spending between $150 and $300 on a room. A single room will be $150. A double room or a larger room or a room with an ensuite, for example, is looking up at that $300 mark. When I lived in my last share house with my partner and my best friend Sophie, I was paying $270, I think, for the room that I was in, and that was because it had a ensuite in it and it was a larger room. The final option, option 3, is a whole house. So that's if you're renting, for example, a 1-bedroom flat like we are at the moment, or if you are renting a studio apartment, or you can afford to rent a whole larger apartment, 2 bedrooms more, whatever is in your budget. You're sort of looking at between $350 and $700 for that, depending on the sort of place you're looking. That's an average price for like 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. I didn't count bigger spaces because that seems like that would be excessive for one person, but if that suits you, like, there are heaps of places you can look for those. I suppose that also you need to think about the bond that you'll need to pay if you move into these non-university accommodations, I suppose, and that's typically 3 months rent. Also, because the housing market in Canberra is insane, especially the rental market, especially around the time of year that people are coming to university, you often have to offer an incentive for people to pick your application, I suppose, because most rentals have many people applying for them, and it's very competitive to get picked. So that's one benefit of the ANU accommodation, is if you're a first year student, you're guaranteed a place. Whereas if you have to look for your own accommodation, there can be some problems with that. So in order to get the property, you might have to offer rent in advance, for example, so that's something you should take into account as well. Okay, so now that we have got accommodation out of the way, I suppose there's also the cost of setting up your own place if it's not the ANU accommodation or it's an unfurnished private space. So for me to furnish this apartment, admittedly we already had things like the bed, the mattress, we didn't have to buy those, but in order to furnish this space, it cost me about $1,500. That was not considering the cost of the lounge, the cost of the bed or the mattress, and the cost of like kitchenware and stuff. I didn't buy that either, and obviously I already had our Manchester, like our bedding and our towels. So that was basically like our desks, our desk chairs, a washing machine, and a table. That was basically what I paid $1,000 for. $1,500. In order to furnish a full apartment, we're looking at around $3,000 probably, and that's a very conservative estimate, I would say. So I suppose then onto the weekly costs. Apart from your weekly rent, which I've said above is between $150 and $700, depending on what sort of accommodation you're looking at. Other costs during the week, groceries, your bills every 3 months, Wi-Fi, things like that, obviously need to be budgeted for if you're a budgeting person, or you at least need to be aware of what they'll be. First of all, talking about groceries, there's obviously a whole range of budgets that you can have for groceries, and I'm not going to put an upper limit on it because people buy different things, so I can't really put that there. But when I was doing our really hard budget shopping, so like fire method kind of saving, where I was only spending $50 a week per person, I was buying the cheapest ingredients, the cheapest pasta, the cheapest vegetables, only proteins that were on special, like that kind of thing. Our proteins were mostly vegetarian proteins like beans, sometimes avocado if we were lucky. But yeah, that was the cheapest that I could go, was $50 a week, and that was hard to keep it to that budget. But it is definitely possible to have a budget that small. And even more possible if you're one person, really. That $50 a week budget was for the two of us, so it was $25 a week per person, but yeah, around $50 a week for two people. But that was hard. I would say $50 a week for one person would still be a struggle. $50 to $100 a week per person, I think, is a budget that's a fairly sustainable budget, meaning you can buy like more special items that you want to buy, not just the home brand cheap stuff. As well as that, the cost of eating out is typically around $60 for the two of us, and we only really do that once every 2 weeks, once a month or so, but that is talking about having a whole meal out, like having a whole dinner out, having all of having drinks, having a large meal. That would be about $60 for the two of us. If we are just talking about lunch out, that's probably anywhere between $5 if your hunger is, if you're not very hungry, if your appetite is very small. Sorry, I forgot how to say that in English then. If your appetite is really small, probably around $5 to $10. A more normal sized meal will be anywhere between $10 to $30. $30 being like a nice lunch. And I suppose the cost of a coffee is also what people are often interested in, and that's anywhere between $3 and $8 for just a normal cup of coffee, dependent on size obviously and the type of coffee, whether you have any special milk or anything. So yeah, that's between $3 and $8. And weekly transport costs are sitting around $50 to $80, depending on what sort of transport you're getting, whether you have a car, whether you are taking the bus. If you're taking the bus, it is probably about $50 a week. That's if you're taking trips there and back and some other trips other places as well. There is a cap on the bus, but I can't remember what the cap is, so I apologize. But also be aware that if you like to go out and party, for example, there aren't any buses that run at night, so you'll have to book an Uber to go back to your house. Obviously, this is when lockdown is lifted. As well as that, the cost of alcohol. I'm not very, I don't drink, so I can't really tell you fully accurately the cost of alcohol, but you are looking at sort of anywhere between $10 and $20 typically for a drink in the centre of Canberra, Civic. And I suppose that brings me finally onto bills. So bills are calculated every 3 months, and so every quarter, so 4 of them in a year. And for those bills, I would say that typically, so these bills are specifically if you're living not on campus. When you're on campus, your bills are included in your rent. But the cost of bills like electric, gas, water and Wi-Fi is typically a gas bill probably between $150 and $300 per quarter per person, electric between $200 and $400 per person per quarter, depending on what sort of situation you're living in, and water is the same, around $200 to $400 but per person. But again, that depends on what sort of housing situation you live in. It can be less than that, but that's just going off what our gas bill says is the averages. And for Wi-Fi, you're looking at between $10 if you're in a share house, a large share house, and $180 if you're renting on your own and you want nice, fast, good Wi-Fi. And for the phone bill, just your normal phone SIM and without a plan or anything is around $20 for the cheapest one. And if you're having a fully inclusive buy off phone plan thing, that's around $120 or more, sometimes up to $160. And finally, doctor's appointments. You will have to pay out of pocket for doctor's appointments if you're an international student, and you will also have to pay for most doctors in Canberra if you are a normal student. Medicare isn't a particularly popular thing with doctors here. If you're Australian, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say Medicare. So yeah, you have to pay out of pocket. It's typically around $70. Sometimes you can get a rebate on that. But there are a few bulk bill doctors in Canberra that put it all on Medicare, but you have to search around for them. Anyway, that brings me to the end of my list of cost of living in Canberra. If you guys have any questions about the price of anything that I might be able to help with, or about sort of, things that I know about the cost of and you'd like to know, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help. In the description below, I've left some links to real estate sites that you can find your own accommodation on. I've also left links to the ANU's accommodation website and the ANU's budgeting thing, if I can find it again. Yeah, so hopefully those links are helpful to you if you're moving to Canberra and you're interested in the cost of things. And yeah, if you have any questions, please just reach out. I'm always happy to help. And I am looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.